What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today, when you talked about SoFi, I want to go over some of the current data points, give you an overview of what happened today and what just came out associated to shorts. So I'm going to go over all that and everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So SoFi did go down 0.39%, a fair amount of volume. So 26.27 million shares were traded, 44 is the average. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So 1.15 million, 5.3, 4.14. So big money still has their eyes set on SoFi. So even though SoFi did have a little bit lower volume, big money was interested versus a lot of the algorithmic trading. So that's kind of a positive thing, but there was no news from SoFi, no SEC filings, no PR, nothing like that, but that was anticipated as well. Not until probably early 2024 once the holiday season is done. So when it comes down to SoFi, it did pull down today largely because of its technicals. And that has been something I've been saying over the last little bit as well. Just based on the technicals, I didn't really feel like it did have enough to get above that 1028 based on the circumstances right now. Even though SoFi has been going through some good FOMO and everything else, I feel like this pullback today was necessary to reset some of the technicals. So with it closing at 1028, it is trading between this R1 and this R2. So it's hard to say whether this R2 is going to be strong support or resistance at this stage, especially considering it was flirting with that throughout the day. As it stands though, 1006 is going to be a very strong support, and then going into tomorrow, $10.65 is going to be that strong resistance. You'll just have to watch and see whether it does close or kind of stays within this R2 to this R3 or kind of retraces back down into this R1 to R2. Looking at some of the data points, so stochastic, you do see a nice bullish sentiment, so black line above the red. But with it being at 88, it is considered overbought somewhat. So we'll just have to wait and see how tomorrow does play out. Number of retail investors were getting out today, so not necessarily the best for that. But surprisingly enough though, there was a update associated to shorts. So when it comes down to short interest, there's only 2 times per month when the actual exchange, so with SoFi it'd be NASDAQ, they provide a update on the true amount of shares being shorted, and it's typically mid and then the end of the month. So as you can kind of see, yesterday the latest report did come out, and that is for December the 15th. So it gives you a snapshot as of December the 15th what the short interest was, even though it's delayed because today is the 28th. So not necessarily the best information. So this is where Ortex takes this new report and tries to adjust it based on what has happened since December the 15th. So I'm going to go over what shorts did today and everything else. But essentially, this report did show on December the 15th, there was 128.38 million shares being shorted, 14.34% of the free float. So that is a change of 10.01%. Pretty positive stuff. Obviously, there still is a lot more room for shorts to leave. And I think that Q4 earnings might be the dagger potentially to cause shorts to really leave and permanently, hopefully at least. So when it comes down to what happened today, I'll break it down. So right now the utilization is 32.92, short score is 61.64, and based on what happened today and adjusting with its new report, it does show shorts returned about 10.2 million shares. 13.85% of the free float is being shorted. 123.85 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is kind of a little bit higher compared to yesterday, so it is at 0.55%. And through Interactive Broker, short availability does indicate that there is more than 10 million shares available to be shorted. So some pretty good updates, and as well as I've mentioned, I think a couple weeks ago, with this new SEC transparency rule kicking off fairly soon, I feel like that's also going to really be an incentive for shorts to close out a lot of their position for probably in the next or within the next month or so, because nobody really wants to have blood on their hands showing that they are shorting a company. And so yeah, that might be a very positive thing for SoFi. So Q4 earnings and that new SEC transparency rule might bring the short interest down to maybe 12 or even 11, 10%, something like that. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. Options wise though, today there was $9.17 million in calls being purchased versus 2.11 million in puts. Sentiment wise, 49% of all the options activity today was bearish. Of the call options that are being purchased, or I guess were purchased today, there's a large consensus that it is going to be above that 1050 mark. So between that R2 and this R3 on the technicals, fib levels, like I mentioned. So when it comes down to SoFi, assuming it can close above that $10 mark, which I think it's fair to assume it will, there's going to be 19,000 in open interest. So that'll cause the market makers to buy, causing a nice pop up in the stock price. Very good stuff. Over and above that, looking at puts, it is anticipated to be sub roughly about $10 by the end of this week, which in my opinion is a little bit far-fetched because we do have that 10.06 as well as that $10 very strong resistance points. So I don't think that's fairly realistic, but what do I know? I'm not a financial advisor. You guys always do your own due diligence. So aside from that though, still a lot of videos coming out from analysts saying that they are still very optimistic about the foreseeable future, that the Santa rally that it is currently in is going to continue well into 2024. So a lot of optimism right now. So I think that should really help SoFi propel it to potentially even that $11 mark. Like I mentioned over the last couple of videos, the Elliott wave technicals are projecting it to get between the 1150 and 1250 in the short term. So bigger and better things might be coming down the path for SoFi. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with all that said, I appreciate all of you watching.